Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Buffalo SportsCenter. This week we are going to preview the 3-2 Buffalo Bills versus the 1-4 New York Giants. The Bills look to rebound after an utterly disastrous trip to London, while the Giants just look to keep their faint playoff hopes alive. Before I get to the preview though, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Follow us here on the YouTube. Subscribe, like, boost that algorithm. Follow us on Instagram and Discord. All three of those links are in the description down below. Now let's discuss a little bit about the Bills offense, who for 55 of 60 minutes against the Jaguars on Sunday weren't present. They were not there. They struggled immensely to get anything going on the ground, in the air, but at the end of the day, Josh Allen still had a good day on paper. He threw 27 for 40 for 359 yards, including 2 touchdown passes, a rushing touchdown, and 1 interception that was very reminiscent of the couple of arm punts he threw in Week 1 against the New York Jets. Now, what was interesting from the Bills is that while they did on paper have a, okay day, with the eye test, it was clear that this was anything further from the truth. Ken Dorsey, our offensive play caller, has had a couple of good weeks of success, but this week was a massive drop-off. He did not utilize any players, any crossing routes, any slants going through the middle of the field. Instead, and there is a perfect chart out there, I hope to maybe find it and put it in my community tab, but there was 85% of the plays that he called that were thrown outside of the hash marks, towards the sidelines, along the outside routes for Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. So it is no surprise that then Diggs and Davis each had productive days while everybody else really didn't. Stephon Diggs, of course, he does what he does. He caught a bunch of passes for 121 reception yards and continues his torrid pace this season. Gabe Davis finally put together a more consistent day as a reliable number 2 wide receiver. He caught a bunch of more passes as well. I believe he caught 4 or 5 for 100 yards. Actually, it was 6, including a fantastic toe tap grab at the end of the game when the Bills were kind of rushing through everything and playing with urgency, something we didn't see for most of the game. And whether you want to blame it on the sports scientists, the actual offense for not being there to produce, doesn't matter though, because at the end of the day, this Bills offense lost Buffalo another game this year. And do you know what separates great teams from good teams? Great teams can overcome adversity such as late travel, impromptu play calling. This Bills team doesn't look like they're capable of doing that. When it's going good, it's going great, like weeks 2 through 4, including that big win against the Miami Dolphins. But when there is an ounce of adversity, such as in Week 1 against the Jets or now Week 5 against the Jaguars, this Bills offense disappears. The complementary pieces don't show up, such as Deontay Hardy or Trent Sherfield. And by the way, did the Bills actually sign Trent Sherfield to catch passes? Because he's not really doing much of anything. And also, we got to talk a little bit about the tight ends who haven't really produced. Dawson Knox, he's not even cracked 100 yards on the season. Dalton Kincaid, he was brought in for his crossing over the middle, Cole Beasley type routes. Hasn't really done much of anything either. Maybe it's just him not getting targeted. Both of them are getting heavy snap counts, but for the second consecutive year under Dorsey, the tight ends have gone missing. So that's really concerning. Now let's talk about the Giants' offense, who will not only feel frustration, but downright inept and sad about their own unit, because this season has been an absolute horror show for Daniel Jones and Brian Daboll and this entire offense. They've produced nothing without Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley has been out for the last couple of weeks. He is questionable at the time of this recording. He may come in. It sounds like he could, but nothing is confirmed yet. If he is back in, that's a great plus for this offense who desperately needs him. If not, then they have to continue turning to former Bill, Matt Breida, and Eric Gray, who neither of them, they're fine people, I'm sure, but they do not have the same level of anything about Saquon. Compared to Saquon, these other guys, they're just backups. They can't carry an offense, and when you have a porous offensive line, in fact, one of the worst offensive lines that I have ever seen, then that's really tough to get anything going on offense. They barely beat their only win comes against barely beating the Arizona Cardinals, and they've been blown out a couple of other times. So this has been a really difficult season, a very big sophomore slump for Brian Daboll. But I'm not sure how much is on him because he's trying to call these plays and he's obviously frustrated. But at what point do we go, Daniel Jones may not be the guy? Well, even if you said he's not, the Giants re-signed him on a big contract extension, and he's under contract for the next couple of years with a heavy dead cap if they do choose to cut him. So you got to ride it out with Daniel Jones. He did play a little bit better last week, but he did leave the game with a neck injury. Now it does appear that he would probably be ready. Now this could change. It's only Tuesday, and there's a lot of the week left to go. If Daniel Jones can't go because of that neck injury, then former Buffalo Bills starting quarterback Tyrod Taylor will get the start. But for Giants fans' hopes and dreams, they do hope Daniel Jones is in. They do hope their offensive lineman, their best offensive lineman, Andrew Thomas, is also in, because right now, Evan Neal and company are just not cutting it. They are not cutting it. Now, it's really frustrating, too, about this Giants offense because they have some unique pieces on the outside. They brought in Darren Waller as their starting tight end from the Vegas Raiders. They still have Darius Slayton. They have Isaiah Hodgins, Sterling Shepard. But nobody has really turned up this season. Nobody has really turned up. It seems like after last year's surprise success that a lot of NFL teams have caught on to how the Giants win, and that is by running the ball down your throats. And they haven't been able to do that this year. Now, if there is anybody that they could maybe do that to, it is to a very injured Bills defense. I mentioned how that trip to Jacksonville in London, yeah, it was a London game. I mentioned how that went disastrous. It didn't go disastrous mainly because of that they lost. I kind of felt like they would lose, even though I predicted them to win. I was very much on the fence. What was disastrous, though, was the injuries. And oh my goodness, the Bills could potentially be screwed because of all the injuries that have occurred over the last 2 weeks. In Week 4, the Bills lost Tre'Davious White, their starting cornerback for the season. Against the Jaguars in London, the Bills lost their top run stopper, Daquan Jones, probably for the season with a torn pec. They also lost, and this is the big kahuna one, their star linebacker, Matt Milano, probably as well for the season, and he had a broken leg. Matt Milano and Daquan Jones are two guys that you really cannot replace on this defense. Now, they will have Christian Benford, Shaq Lawson, Von Miller's also returned kind of from the injury report, although he didn't play too many snaps last week. All of those guys are returned, Greg Rousseau as well, but the loss of Matt Milano and that linebacking core, that was already pretty shaky to begin with. That could prove to be a huge loss. Milano was flying on the field this season, absolutely flying. To lose him, to lose Jones, to lose Tre'Davious White, for most teams, these are injuries you could not overcome. These are injuries that end your season. Now, the Bills, they did have Dorian Williams, the rookie linebacker, drafted in the 3rd round from this past draft, play for most of the time after Milano got injured in that Jags game. And he actually looked pretty good. The Bills' defense hung in there. The offense did their jobs and didn't make the defense be out there for well over 3/4 of the game. Maybe they could have won because they were playing lights out. Dorian Williams was phenomenal. Same with Terrell Bernard. But it's going to be a huge ask for two very inexperienced, very young guys to be able to fill in for missing stars such as Tremaine Edmonds, who of course signed and went away. I think Bernard has filled that one pretty well, but Bernard was being supported by Matt Milano. With no Matt Milano there, it's really tough. And it's going to be really tough for them to keep being a top defense moving forward. So we really do need to see this Bills offense finally put all the pieces together, prove to be consistent, because if they're not there, the Bills may not have that vaunted defense to fall back on. Now, we also need to talk about the Giants defense, who under Wink Martindale for the 2nd consecutive season are not obtaining the same results that they did last year. They still have some great playmakers, such as Kevon Thibodeau. Jason Pinnock had a huge pick 6 against Tua last week. They're still getting some turnovers. They picked off Tua twice. They didn't sack him, though. And they only forced the Dolphins to punt twice, but against that Dolphins offense. How much more can you really ask for? The Giants' defense was the only reason why New York was in that game, because the offense wasn't doing anything. The offense did nothing. But the Giants' defense, by forcing turnovers, by bending but not breaking, they kept the Giants in that game. So that's a positive sign. Now, what you want from this Giants offense is to generate more pressure. You have a lot of really decent guys along your defensive line, and they didn't get to Tua. They haven't gone to a lot of these quarterbacks. So it's very important that they get Josh Allen unsettled, make him uncomfortable, try to disrupt and do what the Jaguars did and disrupt their flow, disrupt their urgency, disrupt their whole game plan, because that is the only way the Giants are going to win this game. They have to be carried by their defense. If that doesn't happen, and you have to be going into a track meet with Josh Allen and this Bills offense, who, despite their lows, have really high highs, then you're not going to win that game. So, folks, I feel like this preview is pretty negative, but have some hope for both the Giants and the Bills. They have good pieces on both sides, the Bills more so than the Giants, and we will see this weekend how each of these teams fare on Sunday Night Football. So without further ado, here is what our BSE panel is predicting for this Week 6 matchup between the Giants and the Bills.
Wide open, complete to Cole Beasley. Beasley to the 20, the 15, and down at the 13-yard line. Walked off under his own power. Here's a pitch for Isaiah McKenzie. McKenzie to the 5, to the end zone. Touchdown, Buffalo.